Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is March 16th when I'm recording this, and let's see. We've had a fairly big up move today. We're trying to figure out if this is short covering what's going on out there, because we had all the big news about the banks and the financial system and all that kind of stuff. The government is coming in to backstop that, and JP Morgan Bank is putting in, I think, a couple trillion, I heard, as far as liquidity, something to that extent. So they are trying to fix the system and make sure that it's not, there's no contagion and all that kind of stuff. But we are seeing some other situations like oil and energy are starting to move down, and which can signal that the economy is starting to slow down and recession is around the corner. So there's that. We'll talk about that. And then also interest rates are coming down. And, it's been talked about that the interest rates are coming down. If they come down, it will be for the wrong reasons. It won't be for good reasons. It's because something is not good happening out there and the Fed needs to pivot in order to save things. But what we're seeing is because the interest rates are coming down, tech and growth is starting to pick up. And so the question here is, can those sectors continue to move up because of lower interest rates or interest rates going down in the face of the economy potentially weakening and something big kind of happening out there and things really getting bad? So that's kind of what we're looking at and wondering, and we'll kind of go through it and see what we can find. Now, as far as the SPY goes, we had what turned out to be a elf shoe double bottom. So this held and we bounced up for now. What we can see is the Moxie indicator got really nice and tight. We could also see there's the double bottom and positive divergence, and we got a pop right there over the 15-minute 50. And then basically we short covering. So once it broke right there, this was all then short covering for the day. So if this is going to continue bullishly, then I'm going to need to see a little bit more confirmation. The problem I'm seeing, until I can confirm that the SPY is bullish, if we're going to go that direction, is that price has really just gotten over the hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is still below zero. We're also over a downtrending hourly 50. We're still not in an uptrend. So it's very much like this. You can see how price went up over the hourly 50, and what it do when it came back to the 50, it failed. So what are we doing right now? We're just going up over the 50. Well, what happens when it comes back down to the 50? We don't know yet. That's what we're going to have to wait and see. The other thing is that we are right here at the daily 21, which tends to be resistance in that area. Again, kind of like this, how that was around the 21 and it pulled back. So I would be considering this kind of the first move, and we need to see about the pullback and see if the pullback is into strength or weakness. Just like this pullback was into weakness, right in through here, that was into weakness. So now we need to see if the next pullback, whenever that is into strength or weakness. Now, if we then come over to, let me do this one, and we can look at the VIX. And the VIX did pop, we got that. And we can see we had the Moxie price trigger, pretty much right on cue. And there is something I will show you guys on the UVXY as far as the setup that got this thing moving. This was a pretty big move on the VIX to the upside, but it was overdone. So, price was, the VIX had moved up. And a lot of times, after a move like that, things kind of settle down and calm down, and that's why we got some bullishness in the market. If we look at the UVXY, there was a setup on the 15-minute time frame. So let me kind of bring this over here. And what you can see in this, you can see double bottom. So there's your double bottom. Notice that the Moxie indicator was above zero. So this, let me kind of zoom out again. You can see that price was below the 50, the Moxie indicator was above zero, and that's how we got to move. Now, I didn't know that this was going to be such a big move. This is when the whole banking, Silicon Valley Bank situation was going on. So the setup was there. I just didn't know how big it was going to be, but it was still there. After that, we can see, kind of zoom in here, just kind of like the VIX, that the UVXY came up here and hit the upper third ATR, and that was kind of it. That was the move for the couple of days, and now we settled back down. Now we need to go wait and figure out what the next move for the market in the VIX and UVXY is going to be. All right, then if we come over, let me kind of come over here to the QQQ, because I find this to be interesting. I find this that this is what I was talking about earlier, where the tech and growth is doing well. It's like what bear market and what crash in the banking system. We had the Nasdaq basically bounce right off of its daily 50. The Moxie indicator is well above zero, and you can see we even made lower lows, but we made a higher low on the Moxie indicator, and then boom, we pop up, and you can see that there's the Moxie price trigger. So, really, this was a pretty clean double bottom going for the Nasdaq. Now, obviously, the SPY doesn't look the same, and nor do the other ones, but for the Nasdaq, it's actually looking pretty strong. So the question that at least I have is, well, how long can this last like this? Is the rest of the economy and some of the stock market not looking good? And is that going to pull the Nasdaq down? Or can the Nasdaq can continue to kind of move up and be strong because of lower interest rates in the face of everything else that's going on? If we look at the IWM, you can see here, this is where oil stocks and the financials are. I mean, it got hit. It was pretty rough. This thing's not looking strong at all. But is it oversold? Yeah, probably, because it's right there at the outside of the third ATR. And so if it's going to go lower, it needs to kind of cool off before going lower, unless this thing is actually going to go higher. We just don't have that information yet. So this has been the challenging part, to figure out where all these things are going to go, because they're all kind of doing their own different things. And then if we even look at the Dow, we've been talking about this one for a while. This makes sense. We had price get rejected by the daily 50, the Moxie indicators below zero. We saw that this was an inverse trampoline move also, and it moved down. Now again, maybe around the third ATR, a little oversold, so it came and bounced back up. But where do we go next with this? I don't have a clear answer yet. Yes, we are seeing some divergence, but price is still underneath a downtrending hourly 50. So I don't have anything that tells me that this wants to be in an uptrend yet, and I don't know necessarily what the downtrend is going to be looking like. And then the semis, the semis really like lower interest rates too, and so the semis have kind of been holding up. So originally here, price flagging into the daily 50, and what we need to do is figure out, is price going to hold the daily 50 and move up? Well, I've been looking here at the lower time frame, and initially I was looking bullish because I figured right in through here price was holding the hourly 50 and was going to move up. Well, then the news about the banks came out, and we got this flush down here. So I got out break even on this thing. But now, and then what I was looking at is maybe there was a level and we were seeing some positive divergence. But then I was also looking at this and saying, well, we have the hourly 50 below the hourly 200 and the Moxie indicator is still below zero. So I couldn't quite tell what was going on here, mostly because it was really just going sideways and it wasn't engaging with any of the moving averages yet. So I'm still kind of trying to figure this one out and see if this is actually going to be bullish, or if this is kind of just pushing before some surprise bottom trapdoor kind of opens up. If this is to be bullish, I would like to see some kind of more confirmation here on the hourly chart. I'd like to see price kind of engage with the hourly 50 and just prove and demonstrate that it actually wants to keep going higher. But it seems as though the Nasdaq and the semis are fairly strong, whereas the rest of the indexes are not strong, but they are oversold. So just trying to figure that one out. And then if we look at XLE, and let me actually bring it over here on the higher time frames, there have been some things where when energy and the oil sector starts to roll over and go down, that's not good for the market, or at least that indicates that the market or the economy is weakening, that the economy is slowing down, because why is demand for oil going down? So that's the thought. And what we can see is, when price gets below the monthly 10, it's in a downtrend. And then you can see it kind of gets up and maybe we oscillate around for a while. But again, it gets underneath the monthly 10, it's in a downtrend. It gets over the monthly 10, it's in an uptrend. And here we are now underneath the monthly 10. So the potential for this to be going down is pretty much right there. And we can even look at USO. And for as much as it was going up, it has been underneath the monthly 10 for quite some time, mostly going sideways. But now here we have a breakout to the downside. So if oil is starting to go down, what does that mean for the economy? And then how is our economy and the economic numbers and all that and pace, how is that going to then affect the market? So we have that. And then if we look at KRE, and I wanted to show you guys something in through here. Now, I'm not trying to show you KRE as a, like I told you so, or you know, hey, we caught a big move. I was not looking at this at all. You know, I'm just not trading banks. I'm not trading XLF. I wasn't looking at anything like that. The only thing I want to do here is that if you guys are trading this, or if you are, whatever you are trading, and you see things like this, my purpose here is to educate you so you can see it on your own whenever something like this comes up. So again, going back to the monthly time frame, if we look at the monthly 10, what was KRE doing? It was basically running into the underside of a downtrending monthly 10. And you can see here on the weekly chart, it continued to also basically flag sideways into the underside of a downtrending weekly 50, and notice that the Moxie indicator was still below 0. So nothing was really being bullish in through here. And then if we come over and look at the daily and hourly chart, the days leading up to this move, if you guys, let me get this right here on the hourly chart, at least, again, there were no bullish signals. So you should have never been in something like this. And again, I'm not saying that anybody was. I definitely wasn't. I wasn't even looking at this. I didn't take a short trade. But if you are trading a stock or a sector or something like that, and you start seeing these things, this is how you then say, oh, I should not be in this. I should not be long on something like this. And maybe if you want to short it, great. But you know, we like to protect our money, and it's great to not be surprised when something like this happens. And so the things that I was seeing that were telling us that, you know, if you were trading this, that you should not be in it was, number one, Moxie price trigger. And so that's telling you that momentum and energy on the hourly chart has now gone negative. And then you could also see that price was being pushed down, guided down by the hourly 50. So anytime price either came up and got rejected by the hourly 50, or if it could push over the downtrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below 0, that's a confirmation of down. And so this thing just kept moving down. So it seems as though the industry kind of knew what was going on, and things were being said and money was being taken out until it finally just let go. The other thing you could be looking at is just right here, just before it finally let go, the 8 started to cross below the 21. Again, on the daily time frame, you look at the fast moving average versus the slow moving average, and there's your indication. And you could see that price could not hold the daily 50. So again, that was another situation where you have the 8 below the 21, you have price failing the daily 50, and then you get the Moxie price trigger, and boom, it all goes down. So that's how that looked as far as the KRE financial system. XLF is basically the same thing. You can see very, very similar. A little bit of a difference here is that you had a little bit more sideways movement here on the XLF on the hourly chart. But again, would you have been suckered into a long? No, because you had right here, you had price over the hourly 50 and you had the Moxie indicator below 0. That's an inverse trampoline move. That is not bullish. You even have a 50, 250 maneuver right there, and price failed the 50 and it just kept going down. And on the daily chart, you could see here it was right kind of hovering at the daily 50, but the 8 was below the 21, and again, according to the hourly chart, it was never a bullish setup. It never triggered long. So maybe you missed out on the short, but at least you wouldn't have been long and you wouldn't have gotten run over and surprised by something like this. So there's XLF. And then if we kind of look at the, you know, the big caps, the bigger stocks, I've kind of been, let me show you this on the weekly chart. You know, Amazon, I had been talking about in through here, and a couple things. One, there's a giant price consolidation right in through here. That's just a lot of price action. And so it seems to make sense that when a price gets down there, it's going to be defended. There's going to be a lot of action in through there. And as that happened, I started to notice that there was a bit of an elf shoe on the weekly chart. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot. You know, hey, is there going to be an elf toe? Like, is this going to go up? And so let's take a look at the lower time frames, and then we can kind of figure that out. Well, I was noticing that price, yes, did pull back, and yes, it did go below the daily 50. So do you short it? Well, the concern that I had was that the Moxie indicator was above 0. So remember, when price is below the 50 but the Moxie indicator is above 0, that's a potential trampoline move, and then we look for it to actually confirm and fire to the upside. And so if we take this and we look over here on the hourly chart, what do we have? Price down, Moxie indicator up, there's your Moxie price trigger, it got back over the hourly 50, and boom, you got a pop to the upside. So, for now, this is looking good. This is looking good. Now, of course, it can change. It can change next week and change tomorrow. But for like right now, this is looking promising. It's doing all the things, elf shoe on the weekly, trampoline move on the daily, and positive divergence with trigger on the hourly. It's all looking pretty good. Apple's been holding up too. And the first thing so first off, this move right here was based on an upgrade, something. I could point to where it's set up on the 15-minute time frame, but there wasn't really a setup anywhere else. And so right here, I said, don't chase it, because that's price over the hourly 50. Notice the Moxie indicator is below 0. There was no divergent setup either. You notice how price was down, price was up. Notice how the Moxie indicator down was, and the Moxie indicator was up. No divergence. What you're looking for divergence is now, then there's your level, there's your divergence. And so you can see price went down, but the Moxie indicator stayed high. There's your divergence. And now we have the Moxie indicator firing as price is moving up. This is looking pretty good. I wasn't sure about it when I was looking at this earlier today, because I was on the mic in the options room, and we were right here. We were just underneath the hourly 50. And I said, I don't have a clear signal yet. It's still underneath the 50. And then after I got off the mic, it started to pop, and it's like, yeah, okay, that looks good. That looks like it wants to keep going. And for now, the Moxie indicator staying above 0, and kind of looks like price wants to flag here. Now, I was a little surprised because there's a bit of a gap here between price and the daily 50, which it hasn't actually touched. Seems okay though. Maybe it doesn't need to actually touch the daily 50, but it's kind of holding up from here. And in fact, even if we look at the higher time frames, Apple is again back over the monthly 10, and it's got the weekly 8 over the 21. So, as long as this continues and keeps moving like that, then it's doing okay. And if we look at Google, similar, very similar. Let me zoom in on this, because do you guys notice leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, there's your elf toe, and price is below the daily 50, the Moxie indicator is above 0. And leading up to that, there's your double bottom, there's your positive divergence, there. It worked out. So yeah, these things were moving to the upside and holding. And then if we look at Microsoft, Microsoft looks just almost exactly like the NASDAQ. You could see that it had a nice double bottom into the daily 50. The Moxie indicator is above 0. There's your double bottom. There's your positive divergence. There's your Moxie price trigger, and there's price up there. So they're liking the lower interest rates. And seems that's what's moving. Now, can that continue? I don't know that. I just don't know. We don't know what the economy is going to do for these names, but right now, it seems that the play is that interest rates came down. And then I also find this interesting. If we look over to ARK, what did I just show you guys for Google and Amazon? Trampoline moves, right? Well, here we have price below the 50, the Moxie indicator above 0. So even here, look, price lower, Moxie indicator higher. This looks like it wants to go. So even ARK is starting to move up, and you can see there's a fair amount of volume coming in. In fact, I think they just had a record inflow since April 2021. So yeah, there is a lot of money coming into this, and even ARK looks like it's starting to get ready to start moving up. I don't know what that means compared to oil coming down and maybe the economy getting into trouble. I don't know, but the charts say that these things are looking good. So let's keep trading what we can and go from there. All right, everyone, thanks again, and enjoy. We'll see you at the next one.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.